This has to be the longest, most tedious sound insulation project that I've done. I've done it on a couple of my other cars before, but never to this kind of extent. I've never actually laid down the rattle trap material fully, and then on top of that laid down the sound insulation material like I've did with this one. It's been about a week since I've done it. I'm about to share some results with you guys. For the most part, all the rattles have been eliminated, so I was thinking about doing some stuff to the dash today, but after really thinking about it, I mean, it's not rattling enough for me to warrant taking apart the entire dash and actually doing some stuff to it. If it does get worse, well, you know where we're going to be heading. But right now, let's go ahead and jump into the car and I'll give you guys my thoughts. So here we are, another project complete. This one was actually really satisfying, especially considering how much I hate rattling of any sort in my car. I like my cars loud, but I don't like unnecessary noise like rattling. For those of you that haven't checked out my videos before, what I decided to do is take pretty much the whole interior of the car apart and rattle proof it, as well as apply any kind of sound insulation material. So what I did is started with the doors, took apart the doors, applied rattle trap material, thick and heavy, to both the inside and the outside metal portions, put everything back. Then I went back to the trunk, insulated the trunk. Then the beast that was just causing the major rattle issue right behind the rear windshield. Got rid of all of that rattling. Was pretty satisfied, to be honest, but I figured, you know what, since I'm already at this point, at this stage, might as well just complete everything. So I added a thick layer of sound insulation material, which I think it was something like 300 and something millimeters. I mean, it was pretty thick. I think like the thickest material that I could find. Laid it on top of that. Was actually really worried whether I could even put back the trunk together, but actually it went back without any issues whatsoever. So I decided, you know what, I need to complete the floors and just eliminate any kind of rattle from the floors as well as kind of deaden the sound, that's the road noise that's coming in. So pretty much took out the front seats. The rear seats were already completed with the trunk insulation portion, and laid down the rattle trap material as well as the sound deadening material on or underneath the front seat as well. So, was all of it worth it? Absolutely. So here are a few things that I noticed. The overall sound inside the car just feels a lot deeper. So for example, the exhaust tone, I don't think it got noticeably quieter, but it got deeper, right? So the quality of the sound inside the car is much nicer. The rattling has been completely eliminated. I mean, I don't have any rattles anywhere. I was kind of worried because it did rattle a little bit here and there with the dash, but it didn't rattle at the kind of intensity that the rear portion did. So I decided, you know what, let me just kind of keep the dashes as is and see if the rattles go away, and thankfully they did. If they come back, you know how it is. I'm just gonna pop the whole dash off and decide to insulate it at that point. But as of right now, everything's good. The exhaust quality, like I said, is really just top notch right now. I feel like it got a lot deeper inside the cabin. But speaking of the exhaust, the one unnecessary thing that was kind of driving me crazy here and there, as a matter of fact, one of the reasons why I decided to put the mufflers back on initially was the drone. The drone was kind of getting unbearable at certain speeds, like certain RPM range. I think it was somewhere like around 2,500 to 3,000 RPM, pretty much cruising range at freeway speeds. That is the one thing that I'm happy that got just completely eliminated. I have no more drone inside the car. As a matter of fact, my wife is the one that even noticed it. She said while we were driving on the freeway, she was just talking to me normally, and we didn't have to elevate our voices whatsoever. And she said, wow, you know, it's the first time that I actually don't have to yell at you in order to actually speak to you. I was pretty excited to hear that, considering that's one of the things that kind of kept driving me crazy. I mean, I am in my 30s, and you kind of start thinking about your kid, your wife, you know, your own hearing, and whether you're doing any kind of damage to it. So I was, as much as I could, I was trying to avoid those speeds, and I was also trying to avoid pretty much even going to the freeway as much as possible. So I'm not 100% sure whether that's because of the rattle trap material or the sound insulation material that I applied, or maybe even a combination of two. Whatever the case may be, I'm happy it's gone. The other thing that I was really hoping that it would kind of help even though it really didn't, was the speaker quality. I always talk about how terrible the speakers are inside the STi, and guess what? They haven't changed much. So even with all of this extra insulation, I was kind of hoping that the speaker quality would, be improved even slightly, but it wasn't whatsoever. Speaker quality is still garbage, which means over the next probably month or so, I'm going to be swapping out the speakers and putting in some good quality speakers inside here. The one thing that I was really not thinking about, even though I noticed it myself, was just the quality that the build of the car seems to exhibit now. So I hate bringing up the term BMW in my videos. I've been anti-BMW for quite some time now, considering I spent about $20,000 in repairs on 2 BMWs that I owned for about a year each. As a matter of fact, my X5 that I had, my wife drove it for 10,000 miles, out of which I spent $10,000 in repairs, which is, you guessed it, $1 a mile. That's how expensive it is to maintain that vehicle. But the one thing that I wish that every vehicle had, that BMW definitely had, is just the overall quality of the way the doors felt. So you open the doors, you close them, you don't have to slam them. Those things just felt heavy, right? I mean, I know everyone's trying to get a lighter vehicle all the time, but I like that heavy feeling that you just push the door, it just thunks into place. STi, completely the opposite. You have to slam the doors. The trunk, oh my God, you have to get a running start, just boom, slam it down just to be able to close that thing properly. Try just pushing it down every once in a while, and you'll see that it is not going to close the way it should. As a matter of fact, it's just going to bounce up and down. After I put the rattle trap material and the sound insulation material on the trunk lid itself, I mean, I just literally drop it and it just thunks into place, and it is the most satisfying feeling. The outside, the doors, like when I closed them, they just close nice and easily. I don't have to slam the doors anymore whatsoever, and it has that, unfortunately, I guess, I mean, whichever way you look at it, that BMW feel. For a vehicle, I mean, to cost this much, it should have a somewhat, I wouldn't say luxurious feel, but a quality build feel. That's what it is. A car doesn't have to fall under the luxury standard in order for the build quality to be prevalent and for you to actually notice it when you're doing a simple task like opening and closing the door. I mean, I have noticed that Subaru did attempt to eliminate some things. They put a couple of little, I guess, rattle trap sound pieces on the doors themselves. Around the plastics, it was this little piece of foam, but after a while, after about 20,000 miles of driving it, what ends up happening? Well, that foam deteriorates. And when that foam deteriorates, it starts rattling like crazy, and it starts driving you completely insane, to the point where you take apart your entire vehicle just to be able to insulate it and eliminate those rattles. So how much was the overall cost? I would say the overall cost, I really haven't calculated it out completely, but I guess I can do that right now. I bought 2 rolls of that rattle trap material. I believe it was somewhere around $100 a roll. So that's $200. And then I bought 4 of those massive sound insulation portions, which they came out to $40 a piece. That's $160, $360, and we'll throw in $40 extra for little bits and pieces that I put in there, or whatever that I might have forgotten. So under $400, I insulated my entire inside. And if, like I said, if you watch the previous videos, you'll see to the kind of extent that I went to actually get that insulation process actually nicely done. Is it tedious? Absolutely. It was a one and done kind of project. I would never do this for anybody else's vehicle besides my own. And as a matter of fact, even if I had to do it on another one of my vehicles, it would probably be quite some time so that I can recover. The guys that do this day in and day out, the kind of positions that you have to be standing and crouching in, it's just extremely tedious work. And I would say cumulatively, I put in, I don't know, maybe 20 plus hours into doing this. Now, of course, probably a lot of that has to do because of the filming, to try to get all the different camera angles, but by the end of the day, I was completely exhausted, and if I had to do it all over again, would I do it? Absolutely. It really does make that much of a difference. Currently working on the Corvette, but I'm itching for a new STi project, so as soon as I come up with one, I'll definitely let you guys know.